Hi there, I'm Karen Marie. I'm a professional psychic and an astrologer. I'm an empath, a channel, a medium, and I have been doing professional psychic readings since 1988 here in Austin, Texas. That's 38 years of professional experience. We had a new moon today. I'm recording this on Sunday, the 18th. I'll be talking about the transits for the week ahead, but I wanted to start with a gift to my clients and potential clients. I'm offering half off my services for this next lunation cycle. In fact, the next lunation cycle will be on February 17th. It will be a new moon solar eclipse. So this new moon kicks off the eclipse portal. Beyond doing psychic readings for clients, which include both astrology and tarot, I also do past life regressions, psychic development instruction if you want to develop your own abilities, rebirthing sessions, which are a process of deep coached breath work, psychic development sessions, house or office clearings if you're here in the Austin area. So if you want any of those services, make sure you check out my website. I'll post the link in the comments below to my website and my email where you can contact me if you're interested in taking advantage of this half off offer, and you just let me know where you've heard it. I also want to let you know, if you don't already know, that every day I post a mini 1 to 2 minute video talking about the transits for the day. I usually record that the night before for the next day and post that on all my social media sites. So make sure you check those out. They are also on my website. And so that's enough of that. I will dive in. I'm going to share my screen, which has the transits for right now. I'm a visual person, so I myself always like to look at something visually. It helps for me when someone's talking about it. Otherwise, the concepts can be very abstract. And astrology can really, make people's eyes crossed because it really is another language. It's a way of looking at ourselves and our life. So I have cast this for Sunday, the 18th of January, 2026, 9 p.m. And I've used Austin, Texas, which is where I am, for the location. I'm going to start by talking about this past week because we had a crazy stellium. All the personal planets were in Capricorn. The personal planets are the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. They've started to move into Aquarius now, but they were all in Capricorn. And one at a time, they all squared Chiron and then Eris. So a square is a contentious relationship. It usually requires some sort of action to be taken, and it can be very intensive. So Chiron's glyph looks like a key. Chiron is the wounded healer. In your birth chart, it points to where you've been wounded over many, many lifetimes, and that wounding will show up in this lifetime as a sore spot, as a place where you get triggered. The glyph looks like a key because when you heal the area where you feel the woundedness, it actually becomes a place of great strength. But a square with all the different personal planets to Chiron probably made it a very difficult week last week for most of us. My moon is at 22 degrees of Chiron of Aries, so Chiron has been sitting on my moon, and all these personal planets were squaring it. So I definitely felt it this last week. And then Eris and Chiron are just a couple degrees apart. Eris is an asteroid. It's a very slow moving one. It takes like 200 to 300 years to get around the entire zodiac. So everyone who's alive on planet Earth right now has Eris and Aries at some degree. The fact that these two are conjunct is also intensive. Eris is the story behind, let me just talk about the story behind Eris. She was not invited to a wedding of all the gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus, and she was not happy about that. So she showed up at the reception and raised holy hell. So Eris can represent protesting and standing up for rights, and sometimes in a not so peaceful way. She can be very volatile. She's also known to be the sister of Aries. So Aries is warlike. Mars is the ruler of Aries. So she's right there on the battlefield, right next to it. So this is like an intensive energy going on. So just Eris conjunct Chiron by itself can be stirring up places where you feel the need to stand up for your rights or stand up for someone else's rights, or where you've been disempowered in the past and had someone trample over your rights. Again, Chiron is helping us heal this area within, but it can be, until an area is healed, it can be very source. And just like, say, a rabbit, a wild animal who's wounded, that you don't want to get around them. That's usually when they're the most ferocious. I think human beings, we're animals as well, and we can be not so friendly if our wounds are getting triggered. So this last week was super duper intensive because we had all this squaring off. Also, here in Austin this week, and I'm sure in many other places where you may be watching this around the country, I was doing raids here in Austin all week. I am an empath, which means I can feel what's going on for other people. And if people's fear and insecurities are getting stirred up or their rights are getting trampled on, there's a lot of extra charged emotions in the air. And so I was feeling that. In addition to all the squaring, I was feeling that energy. I've been feeling it ever since they started, you know, unleashing their beastedness on the country. These ice agents feel like animals as well. So that's also a backdrop of what's been going on. So we had the new moon earlier today. That was when the sun and moon were conjunct, and that happened at 28 degrees and 43 minutes of Capricorn. As I'm recording this right now, the sun has now moved to 29 degrees of Capricorn. Let me just talk a minute about Capricorn. Capricorn rules the 10th house in the astrological wheel, which is the house of the father in your birth chart. It's also the house of your mission on this planet. It's the boss, the authority figure. It's the government. It's the old established ways of doing things. It's top-down power over. Any planet at any sign at 29 degrees is called the anaretic or the testing degree. It can be very intensive. You're being tested on all the things that Capricorn represents. And of course, I just threw out a tiny little bit. Every sign and every planet has the positives, has the negatives. Sun is illuminating. It shines the light. It's like a big, huge spotlight going on a particular area, wherever it is in the chart. And if you have a lot of planets or points, or any important ones in Capricorn, you may have felt personally aspected about these transits over the last week when this stellium, this parade of personal planets, was marching through Capricorn. Today, or well, it's already there today and into tomorrow, Monday the 19th, the sun will be finishing out its cycle through Capricorn. The sun takes 30 days to move through a sign. So, and then it will move at 7:44 p.m. on Monday the 19th. The sun will move into Aquarius. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is where we set up boundaries. It's where we build things. It's where our structures are, our boundaries for ourselves and with others. Saturn can be likened to the old school marm or piano teacher with the ruler that'll slap you on the knuckles if you're not doing things correctly. Saturn rewards when you have put in hard work and effort. So the sun here at 29 degrees, if you've been doing the work of whatever it is that Capricorn rules in your chart, there's all these 12 different houses, so everyone has Capricorn ruling a certain aspect or area of your chart. So you may have felt this intensity even more depending on where you have Capricorn in your chart. This is where a personal reading comes in handy, so we can dive into your chart and see if any of these aspects are affecting you personally. Now, with all aspects are like conjunctions and trines and sextiles and squares and oppositions. We can feel them before they're exact, We can certainly feel them when they're exact, and they can linger and have effects afterwards. I very often feel the effects of an aspect before it's actually exact. So whenever I give times or specifics about aspects, just know that you can add in and and feel that a couple days before to a couple days after. So we'll have the sun at the last degree of Capricorn, and then in the evening, tomorrow on Monday, it will move into Aquarius. Now, Aquarius rules the 11th house in the Astro wheel. This is the house of our networks, our groups, our tribe. It's humanity vibing together. These two airwaves here are the vibing together of all humanity. The ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. Uranus is the maverick. It is the great awakener. It wants to do things outside of the box. It doesn't want to be held back. I mean, air is free to be air, right? All over the place. Where Capricorn is earth. It's like solid, what you can count on. Aquarius is the airwaves as well, like technology and things that are transmitted through the air can be Aquarius energy. And Aquarius people like to shake things up. Do you know anybody with strong Aquarius traits? You usually cannot predict what they're going to do next. They can't even predict what they're going to do next, right? So we have, but it is the power of the people, Aquarius, the power of the group, the power of the tribe. And we have Pluto here in Aquarius. Pluto represents power and control. It's deep, dark secrets being revealed. Pluto's lord of the underworld. It is about transformational energy, death and transformation. It is a potent player. Wherever you have Pluto in your birth chart is where you came in to do some deep level transformational work. And wherever Pluto is transiting, we're all getting pulled into the transformational work. And so what is Pluto transforming? The collective, the new, whereas Capricorn's the old, Aquarius is the new. And it's everyone vibing together. So the Pluto here in Aquarius can be picking out new power structures. Again, Capricorn is top-down power over. Aquarius is power of the people, that we all together make up the power, not just one person. So these power paradigms that are the top-down power over are going to be crumbling. Pluto's going to be moving through Aquarius over the next 18 years. So we have plenty of time to transform our society, which is what Pluto will do. Again, every sign, every planet has positives and negatives. One of the downsides of Pluto being in Aquarius is that you can give your power away. Groups of people can give their power away to someone. For example, a cult leader. Or perhaps the president of the country. If anyway, I won't go into politics here, but that is one of the downsides. You can join a group of people and not feel like, if someone is like lording over everyone else and not allowing every voice to be heard, that's not a group you want to be a part of. Whereas when you walk into a group and you just feel this camaraderie, you feel this unity, that's where you need to be. So lots of us are going to be joining new groups, new connections, forming new tribes. There can be a movement of people wanting to live and work in community with Pluto moving through Aquarius over the next 2 decades. So the moon also moved into Aquarius today. Right now, she's conjunct Venus. In another hour or so from now, she'll be conjunct Pluto. So you'll probably be hearing this after this has already happened, but I like to tell people who are trying to begin to learn about transits to pay attention to where the moon is and see what you notice about your own. If you know your own chart, then you may know what area of life each sign rules and see if you notice shifts or changes in that area of your life. Or for example, if you notice as the moon moves through Aquarius, are there messages and news around tribes, groups, community? Like, is there more movement of the community? Like right now, A lot of community is rising up and protesting together. That's one of the Pluto power to the people energies that's going on. Again, we have Eris and Aries doing that as well. Venus is now in Aquarius, and she will be conjunct Pluto. When does she get conjunct Pluto? Later on Monday at 10:04 p.m. Venus will conjunct Pluto. So Venus represents love, divine love, how you love yourself. It's relationship love. It's the women in our lives. It is beauty, it's the arts, it's also money and finances. So we can experience some great transformation in our own personal life on the planet with these Venus energies as Venus and Pluto become conjunct tomorrow. Also, tomorrow, the Sun will sextile Neptune, which is also at the 29 degree. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It runs the gamut. I've been a Buddhist for over 4 decades, and there's a thing we call the 10 worlds, which is almost like taking your temperature, a thermometer. It's 10 life conditions that we as human beings can all represent. The lowest being the state of hell. And in Buddhism, hell is not someplace you go after you die when you've been a bad person. Hell is when you are alive and you're living in a state of hell in your life. You're in a war-torn country. You're treating yourself like you're caught up in an addiction or an eating disorder or abuse in some way, and you are in a state of hell. You feel like hell. Your life looks like hell. The next state above that is hunger, where you have this insatiable hole that never gets filled, that you look for substances, behaviors, people, things to fill that up with. That realm of addiction is hunger nature, and everyone possesses that. The next life state up from that is anger. No, it's animality is next. Animality, when people treat each other like animals, they're just acting instinctually. There's no consciousness present. And then the next state up from that is anger, when you're like raging and it's always somebody else's fault. Look at the angriest people you know. They most often blame someone or something outside of themselves. Always pointing the finger. You know that adage that when you're pointing the finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So there is this. Those are the lower 4 worlds. Everyone has that potential to live in the lowest state of humanity. The next life state up from that is tranquility, when life is peaceful. Things are calm. Things are still. Then up from that is rapture, where you get the good news. You have the orgasm. You eat that great piece of chocolate cake, or you get the razor bonus or whatever. That's rapture. Rapture is temporary. You don't stay in a state of rapture. It comes and then it usually goes. Hopefully you go back to tranquility, but you could go straight to hell after that. Like it can cause you on a swing. The next life state up from rapture is learning, when your mind is actually expanding. Up from that is realization, where you are having those aha moments like, oh, I see. Insight, psychic awareness starts budding. Then Bodhisattva is the next life step up from that. That's when you live in compassion and service for others. You really want to help other people out. And then the ultimate is Buddhahood. And again, that's not after you die, that's right here in a body. We all contain the potential for enlightenment, for the ultimate in wisdom and clarity and joy and peace. So those are the life states, the 10 worlds, as we call them in Buddhism. And Pisces rules all these life states, from the state of hell to the state of enlightenment or Buddhahood. And Neptune is the ruler of that. So this planet is at 29 degrees. Now it takes Neptune 165 years to get around the entire zodiac. Now it did bump up into Aries for a bit last year, and then it retrograded back into Pisces. Next week, on a week from Monday, so the 26th of January, Neptune moves up to Aries to begin its next cycle. So by the time it finishes this next cycle, unless you're going to live for over 165 years, you won't even see the whole wrap up of Neptune around the zodiac. So this is a big deal for Neptune to be kicking off a brand new journey through the astro wheel, and for it to be finishing off, for it to be at the very last degree, this anaretic degree of the entire zodiac. So the 29th degree of Pisces is not only the wrapping up of the lessons of Pisces, but the wrapping up of the lessons of the entire zodiac. So Neptune first entered Pisces in 2011. So you can think about, in these realms of information, in the 10 worlds within your own life, what have you been learning? What have you been growing? Where have you been operating? Which life condition is your primary life condition, right? This Neptune at this last degree, this whole next week, is having a final exam of these lessons. So there could be some amazing spiritual, psychic messages, realizations coming through. Or if you're just overwhelmed, you could find yourself really caught up in addiction, really caught up in anger, really caught up in a state of hell within. It's your choice. The way to raise your life condition is to plug into spiritual practices. Creative arts also can raise our life condition. There's certain people that you're around them and you just raise your vibe, or there's other people you're around and they lower your vibe. Pay attention wherever you are, and check in. Where is my life condition over this next week? And see if you can't raise your own life condition and take these lessons into as Neptune moves into Aries next week. Another thing that Neptune represents is dreams. It can be like when we're sleeping, the realm of the psychic and the spiritual that are accessing our brains when we're not awake. It can also be to have a vision, right? Neptune can be visions. It can be illusions. It can be what you want to create for your life. It can also be where things get dissolved and removed and taken away, right? So it can be a beautiful illusion that you can make true. It can be something that then your negativity within goes, that's not realistic, and then washes that desire away. So pay attention what's going on internally. This can be intensive. And then on Monday, we have this sextile between the sun and Neptune, which magnifies this energy. But Neptune, this whole next week, these lessons will be super duper powerful. Also on Monday, tomorrow, we'll have Saturn here at 27 degrees in a sextile with Uranus. Now, a sextile is a positive aspect. It usually brings out the best of both signs. Saturn, again, is where we set up boundaries and where we build things. Uranus is the great awakener that wants us to evolve, wants us to wake up, to become conscious. Yes, and I'm going to use the word woke because I think being awake is definitely preferable to being asleep. So there's something surprising. Uranus can bring in sudden surprising messages. So there can be some lovely surprising messages or some insights around how to take action, set some boundaries in your life. A sextile usually requires for you to take some sort of action. Same thing like a square. The square can feel more ouchy and contentious, but action is needed. A sextile, action is needed to get the most out of the benefits. So to get the awareness, to get the insights, you may need to create some space and time to meditate, to sit and journal, to go take a walk in the woods so you can be open to receive the downloads. I talked about Venus being conjunct Pluto tomorrow too at 10:04 p.m. This is bringing the power and control issues to a meetup with Venus. So it can show up in relationships with someone trying to have power or control over you. You can transform a relationship. It can be the death of a relationship. Venus represent relationships, Pluto meaning death. There's all kinds of different ways that these can match up. You can take all the qualities of Venus and all the qualities of Pluto and put them together, and there's lots of different ways that can show up. But it can be intensive too. Power, control, secrets being revealed around relationships. It could be a female secret, or women unlocking the key to a secret, or male and female power. Again, the old structure has been men having power over women, so it could be women stepping up in power in some way, having your own sense of power, empowerment within yourself could be some of the transformation. Instead of letting someone else have power over you, you take the reins and you stand up for yourself. We also have a trine between Mars, it's over here in Capricorn, at 27 degrees, and Uranus. So a trine, whereas the sextile requires some sort of effort, a trine is something flows easily. So Mars represents taking action and putting energy into things. And Uranus is going to bring some great insights. It could really help with motivation, a kick in the butt. Something just comes in. Again, Mars can be the male principle. So something can just come in shocking. That could be positive. That represents the divine masculine in your life. That happens at 11:56 p.m. That's when the trine is exact. So tomorrow, Monday, super powerful day from start to finish. The sun moving into Aquarius at 7:44 p.m. again. So all up to the day before that, then the sun will be at this 29 degree of Capricorn part. It'll be interesting to see. Capricorn can also represent rulers. If leaders or rulers around the world, like if there's something very intensive that happens with our own leaders here in this country, leaders around the world. And again, there's this shift here into the Aquarius. And see if you notice a change in the energies when the sun moves into Aquarius. See if you notice a change in energies as the moon changes signs. All right, on Tuesday the 20th, we start off at 1 minute after midnight. And again, these are Austin, Texas times, with Mars at 27 degrees of Capricorn, making a sextile to Saturn. Okay, so here's another positive energy about setting up boundaries with how we take action. Again, this is a great time to start something new, start a new habit or routine, Saturn. Then at 8:34, we have Mercury in Capricorn, and Mercury will be at 29 degrees. Then Mercury moves to this anaretic degree. So all these things I was saying about the sun, Mercury's going to be experiencing that on the 20th. So Mercury represents your thinking, your communication with others, social media, the news. So there can be lots of thoughts around all these Capricorn things, conversations. And then with the sextile to Neptune, some spiritual messages, dreams coming through that give us some insight into some of these old behaviors, the old ways we've been doing things, and insights into the new. One of the things that I'm interpreting the Neptune moving into Aries is about being courageous and initiating new things and being the pioneer. And so Neptune moving into Aries can be the initiation of having the courage to make our dreams come true. That's one of the things. That's one of the ways I'm going to be spinning it. Then we also have Mercury moving into Aquarius at 10:41 p.m. No, a.m. So then we have Mercury joining the party here, the train in Aquarius. That's on Tuesday the 20th. So again, shifting these energies, this stellium of personal planets beginning to move into Aquarius, and they'll one at a time be crossing over and conjuncting Pluto. We also have Vesta here. Vesta is an asteroid that I see representing where we sacrifice ourselves for others. So since she's here conjunct Pluto too, there can be a sacrificing yourself to someone else that's in power, like being afraid to stand up for your own rights. That's an example of that. We also have Chericlo here in Aquarius at 20 degrees. I talked about Chiron being the wounded healer. Chiron was healing all the other gods, but was wounded himself and couldn't heal himself because he was a demigod. Who was taking care of Chiron? Chericlo was. So Chericlo is the wife of Chiron, and she represents that supportive healing person, the person that will support the healer. This is Pallas Athena. She came out of Zeus's head, ready and armed for battle. She can represent the general on the battlefield, the strategic planner. She's craftsy. She can weave and do arts and stuff. She's sitting at 28 degrees of Aquarius, which is where the new moon solar eclipse will hit next month on February 17th. So it's interesting that the general is there in a place where a solar eclipse is going to be taking place. Let's see what else coming up this week. Okay, on Wednesday, the 21st at 12:49 a.m., so just after midnight, the moon will move into Pisces. A Pisces moon is fabulous for dreams, psychic abilities, spiritual practices, all those things. It is easier to get psychic hits. It's easier to be emotionally sensitive. Like I notice in particular when the moon moves through Pisces, especially, but all the water signs, I get some of the best dreams, psychic hits, and downloads. So see if you don't have that. Also, on Wednesday, the 21st at 9:48 a.m., Mercury will conjunct the Sun, and they'll both be at 1 degree and 36 minutes of Aquarius. So it's called a cazimi. When any planet conjuncts the Sun, it's considered to be in the heart of the Sun, and the Sun magnifies the energies of that planet. So the cazimi with Mercury will be magnifying. Mercury's the messenger, so it'll be magnifying psychic and spiritual messages, the things you tell yourself, your communication with others, social media, the news. And again, this is an Aquarius, so this can be messages about new groups, humanity, all of us vibing together. I feel that being very powerful, very positive. On Thursday, the 22nd, Mercury will then conjunct Pluto. That will happen at 3 degrees and 24 minutes. It's exact at 11:14 a.m. So transformative conversations, the death of some thought processes, how you thought about yourself could transform and change. Again, Mercury's the messenger, so it could be revealing secrets. Out on social media, there can be a reveal of something that was hidden. Again, Pluto is the lord of the underworld, so things coming up to the surface. That can happen with any time a planet is conjunct Pluto. So we're going to have that with Venus this week. We have that with the Sun. We have that with Mercury. And we'll end up having that with Mars early next week. On Friday, the 23rd at 12:39 a.m., we have Mars, which will be at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So it will be at this anaretic degree. That can be dicey again, and it will be sextiling Neptune. Again, all the things I said about Neptune sextile could be a really great positive connection. So it can inspire you to make some transformational changes. But again, this god of war at the very last degree of this sign that represents the old, the established, the power over could really be eruptive, especially with those who want to hold on to power or gather more power. Mars moves into Aquarius at 3:16 a.m. early in the morning on Friday the 23rd. So it joins this huge stellium then in Aquarius. The Sun will conjunct Pluto on that day at 4:28 a.m. So this is a combustible day. And at 7:25 a.m., the moon will move into Aries. Now, in my observations, the people on the roads are the pissiest when the moon is traveling through Aries. Again, we've got the ruler of Aries being Mars, the god of war. So that could be concerning as the moon moves into Aries. And then we'll be making, sextiles to Pluto, to the Sun, to Mercury, to Venus. Again, sextiles are positive connections, so we can get more. And the moon represents our intuition, our inner emotional realm. So we get psychic hits when there's positive aspects between the moon and other planets. So we can get some great insights into ourselves with the moon sextiling all these personal planets on Friday. Then on Saturday, the moon will square Jupiter, which is still retrograde in Cancer over here. And a square to Jupiter is probably the mildest of all the squares because Jupiter is the great benefic, but it can make things bigger. So if there's already things getting stirred up, Jupiter, the square with the moon to Jupiter can make it even more intensive. And then the moon will also cross over Chiron at 11:41 p.m. Austin, Texas time, late Saturday night, and then soon thereafter we'll cross over Eris, and then the moon will move into Taurus at 12:05 p.m. on Sunday the 25th. So again, early in the day on Sunday, the moon will be traveling through these last degrees of Aries. When Mars was at 29 degrees of Aries, January 6th, a few years ago, we know, or 5 years ago, when was that? When we had the attack on the Capitol, Mars was at 29 degrees of Aries at that point. Again, Mars, the god of war, at the anaretic degree of Aries is when that big thing busted up. So the moon will move into Taurus at 12:05 p.m. on Sunday, the 25th, which grounds us. You know, may want to go commune with nature during the day on Sunday. And then Monday the 26th is when Neptune moves into Aries. That'll be exact at 11:34 a.m., kicking off a whole new thing. A couple other things I want to point out. Uranus here is retrograde. It's slowing down in the size because it's not going to be retrograde that much longer. It actually stations direct on February 3rd. So it moves back to 27 degrees and 27 minutes. So like it's staying at this 27 degree point, which is 1 degree off of where Algol is still sitting. And Algol is the head of Medusa. It's a fixed star, which has been associated with leaders losing their heads. So surprising, shocking things can be happening, even though they're not exact. And Uranus will not get back to exactly conjunct Algol, but it is super close. And when a planet is stationing direct or retrograde, it slows down in the skies and becomes its most potent and its most powerful. So Uranus is slowing down here over this next week and a half or so until February 3rd, when it really retches up and then stations direct. So disruptive events, surprising, shocking events, shaking things up, shaking up political and leadership around the world here because of its conjunction with Algol over the next couple of weeks. And then it's also in Taurus. Taurus represents the earth itself. So literally there can be shake-ups with the planet, like earthquakes or volcanic eruptions or major earth events, weather events. So those are the big things that are going on with the transits for this week. I want to jump ahead because people have been asking me what I've been feeling intuitively about whether or not we're going to be going to war. I will say that Pluto, last time Pluto was in Aquarius 250 years ago, we had both the American and the French revolutions. The last time Neptune was in Aries, we had the Civil War. Uranus was also in Gemini when we've had major volatile conflicts. So 3 of the outer planets in signs that historically have meant conflict. But I want to take you ahead to something that is a bit intensive for me. And so I'm moving ahead to Wednesday, the 15th of April. All right, so just a few months away, 2026. Again, I left the place, Austin, Texas. But look at this stellium in Aries. We have Mercury. MC means midheaven, and this is just a chart of an event, a day. So disregard the MC, doesn't really matter in this. But like here in Austin, there may be something that we're initiating or starting here. So Mercury is in Aries. The moon will be in Aries. Neptune will be in Aries. Mars will be in Aries. Saturn will be in Aries. Eris, the sun, and Chiron. That is 8 planets in Aries on April the 15th, 2026. Of course, a lot of these will move into Aries before that, and some of these will begin, the sun will move out of there. The moon, moves through a sign. But this is intensive. This feels like war to me, especially when Mars itself is sitting here and will be crossing over Neptune and Saturn. This is so friggin' intensive. This is unprecedented. I don't know. There is not a time that I've been able to find in any record of history where this many planets was in Aries. So that's just a preview of coming attractions. I don't even know what to think about that, but since people have been asking me, what do I feel? Do I think we're going to war? I'm like, I think the whole planet may be stirred up again because Mars, the god of war, is the ruler of Aries and all these planets. Like, if we're bringing out our best selves, this could be lots of courage and innovation and initiation and pioneering spirit and passion. They can be positive intensity. But given the state of the world and how people are behaving around the world, I'm going to stop sharing. Um, I don't know. What do you think? What does your intuition tell you about where we're headed? I already said that the next lunation cycle will have a full moon, and then the next new moon will be a solar eclipse, followed by a lunar eclipse. So we have two back to back eclipses. So we're entering the eclipse portal. Eclipses are where transformational things happen. Important people come into your life and exit your life around eclipses. It's like time speeds up. Shocking events happen around eclipses. So we have that. The next eclipse on the 17th of February, followed 3 days later by the exact conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. I said Neptune moves into Aries on Monday the 26th. Saturn moves into Aries on February 13th, and then they're exactly conjunct at 0 degrees and 43 or 45 minutes. I forget the exact minutes on February 20th. I can look that up really quick. It says 17 degrees and 26 minutes. That's the moon. The Saturn. No, yeah. I don't know the exact degree right now. I'll look. I want to know the exact. So yeah, 45. So it's 0 degrees and 45 minutes is the exact degree, and it'll be happening exactly at 10:53 a.m. Austin, Texas time on Friday, the 20th of February. So that's a month from now when it's like a new moon, right? Like when the sun and moon, it starts a new cycle. So Saturn and Neptune coming together start a new cycle for Saturn and Neptune. To have them come together at the very first degree of the entire zodiac is powerful for the whole world because 0 degrees of all the cardinal signs is the global axis. So there's something brand new being seeded on that day. Doesn't mean it's going to show up on that day, but something brand new is being seeded. And then for each of us, there's something new being seeded in our own lives, right? About structures, boundaries, how we set up our time, how we manage our day-to-day groove, where's our boundaries, where we say no. And then this Neptune, right? This range of what are we going to do? Are we going to bring out our best, highest life conditions? Or are we going to let the worst be what we're setting up, right? So it can be a new seed point for bringing out the cause for enlightenment in our life. And then these two won't meet up again for another 35 years or so. The last time these two met up exactly was in Capricorn. And that's when the Berlin Wall fell. Berlin structures falling down, dissolving, taking things away, the Neptune. So it'll be interesting to see what structures and what taking away of structures happen next month, or the seeding of that. We are in transformational times, my friend. So best to plug in daily to lift your life condition to the highest perspective so that you have the insight and know how to take action in your life. We all are wired with intuition, where everyone is psychic. If you quiet the mind, that's the secret. Just this little computer that's made up of everything we've been told, everything we've been programmed, everything we've learned, slide that mind to the side and let yourself access your higher self, your Buddha nature, your Christ self, your divine self, your holy nature, whatever name you want to call it. It is your soul energy. When we die and our bodies turn to clay, the part of our life force that remains, our soul, is connected. Our intuition is connected to that eternal being. And so we can trust our intuitive voice. So you have to still the mind, calm the emotional body to get in touch with it sometimes. Other times, some of us is just loud and in charge and can't ignore it. But for everyone, when you listen to your intuition and then follow the promptings, following the guidance, you're on the best path for your life. Your intuition is your internal GPS system. And sometimes it takes a difference. Like it takes a while to discern the difference between what's my mind and what's my intuition. I don't know the difference. People who are visual, that can see auras, they can see spirit guides. Sometimes it's easier for them to like, oh no, I get a vision, I get a message. I'm not visual, I don't see those things. I just get this feeling. And the intuitive, the higher self has this loving, wouldn't you love to? Wouldn't it feel fabulous if? Like there's this just current of love attached to the intuitive voice. Again, it's coming from a higher self that is wired with wisdom and compassion. Whereas if it's coming from your logical, rational mind, it can feel like you need to, you should do, I have to, you don't should on yourself ever, right? I have to, I must. That's not your higher self. That is your brain, your mind, your programming. So take extra time. I have upped my spiritual practices. I chant every morning and evening. I also do quiet meditation. I've been doing more of both these days because I want to be listening on a daily basis. All we have to do is get guidance for this one day, right? It's great to get up in the morning and just ask your higher self, what today do I feel guided to do? One great way to try to access this is to do a two-way prayer. Write down that, like, what is my guidance today? Like you can write it in a journal, write it on a piece of paper, and then calm. Sometimes it's good to write it with the non-dominant hand, the answer, but just wait for that prompting of what comes next. Like all we need to do is like this next baby step. We don't have to figure out all the whole week ahead. We don't have to figure out the next month, the next year ahead. Just today. That's all. And if we do what we feel guided to do today, we're going to be golden. And sometimes that means canceling the things we've planned. Like, oh, I'm feeling like I should just stay home. It feels dicey to walk outside. Cancel. Like, follow your own inner voice. Do not override your intuition. Most of us can see where our intuition was guiding us. And when we override it, like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Or I felt. So don't, when you get those little promptings, listen to them. Follow them and report back to me. And if you want a reading with me, let me know. Half off this month. Want a past life regression? Half off.